That's a very good question.
Yeah, Abby asks, how have people been dealing with mental health during this situation, during all of this? And yeah, it's definitely a challenge, especially, I'm sure most of us have had it easy, right? In terms of where we started when we entered quarantine, because, plenty of people might have entered quarantine and they were already, in some bad states, right? Or they were on the brink and quarantine just was the cherry on top that, spiraled them down. Um, and I'd say, yeah, that's absolutely terrible. And put on top of that, the fact that, yes, our connections with all of our friends are being tested during this time, and our ability to believe in ourselves and believe what we're doing is the right thing to do is being tested. Um, so I don't know if anyone else has anything to say about that. Um, but absolutely, I think the way we combat that and combat that kind of distress is just making sure that we stay connected with one another. Because, we are a social species, right? We have friends for a reason.
Yeah, I could add something to that too, of just like, I think for me, I definitely did notice like a decline in my mental health, especially in the beginning of quarantine, but also just at random times throughout. And I think one thing that's like always helpful to me, at least to remember about like mental health issues in general, is that they don't have to be caused by like something specific. You don't have to have a death of a family member or some really kind of serious event for you to kind of slip. And because I know like at the beginning of quarantine, I think people felt justified in their mental health issues because it was like, wow, we're getting the world kind of ripped out from under us. But then I think sometimes people tend to like invalidate how they're feeling because they don't think that they have reason enough. And I think towards the middle of quarantine and now I think at least from my friends have kind of felt like, well, I still feel bad and I don't really feel like I have a right to. And I think that's especially, like Mabel said too, with everything that's going on right now and in our own school community too, I think it's important to remember that, yes, do your part, be a good citizen, do what you can to contribute, but at the same time, make sure you're taking the time to care for yourself. If that means going off of social media for a bit, I did that for a little while. If that means just kind of giving yourself that kindness that you would treat other people with, because if your friend was telling you that they were depressed or that they were dealing with something, you wouldn't be like, okay, come on though, like how many things like have you been able to do though, and like how can you be productive? You wouldn't be doing that. So I think it's just remembering to treat yourself kindly too and say, it's okay that I feel like crap. It's okay that I just want to sit in bed and watch TV for the whole day. And being able to see the difference between giving yourself those days, but also knowing yourself enough to know when it's getting bad and when you should make an effort to really reach out and connect, because there's so many people who want to help you, even if you don't see that. I know I definitely didn't for a long time. In my head, I was like, I'm going to burden other people if I ask for help, or I'm going to only make them sadder because I'm telling them how I'm sad, or whatever it may be. But I think you just need to remember that like people want to help you. They want to see you feel good and be happy. And you can really reach out to people and they will be willing to help. So I think it's just taking that leap of faith and knowing, like, just going for it and just saying like, I'm going to just do it. Even if it feels uncomfortable, I'm going to say, I'm going to reach out to someone.
Absolutely. And it's kind of incredible because like once you take that leap and once you like make that phone call or that get into that Google Meet, maybe you plan only on being there for like 10 minutes or 5 minutes, or you're just planning on talking about something miscellaneous, and then you end up talking for like an hour or two just because you miss talking in general. It's something that's like, yeah, this is why we need to be, or this is why we at least need to maintain connections, right? Another aspect that I think we should talk about in general when it comes to facing all of 2020 in general and everything that's been going on is the idea of like, should someone feel guilty for maybe not doing their part, or they see, all these other things going on, and they see people rising up and take action, and maybe some people, while they feel like, yes, that needs to happen, they just aren't motivated, or they don't feel like they need to take a stand on something. Um, and then they feel guilty for not wanting to do that because they know it's the right thing to do.
I can jump in on that. So, personally, like it's my opinion, but I think that of course it's important to, I believe, get involved in some way because it does affect all of us, no matter like who, for example, like it institutionalized racism, like for example, for the Black Lives Matter movement, right? It affects all of us, and I think be we should be helpful to this movement, and we should be helpful to the things that are going around. And I know that, and I understand, people saying, "Oh, this stuff gets annoying and this stuff like gets like bothersome." But really, I think that if you can say that, then you can also use, I guess, that, I don't know, because the people that usually do say that, like, "Oh, it's annoying and I don't want to bother with it," I find that they're the people who usually turn like a blind eye to this, and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm just gonna ignore stuff that's going around." And I don't know, I just find that wrong. But a lot of people who I know have stepped back from this kind of and say like, "Hey, it's just really overwhelming on my own mental health," and I think that is understandable because personally I have had to step back and I've been doing things on my own, like sending petitions and whatnot. But personally, sometimes it does get really overwhelming, especially if you're seeing, and I know people are like sharing violent videos and whatnot and not realizing that it might be a trigger for a lot of people. And viewing that, with no warning, for sometimes it gets really overwhelming. So, and at some point you might have just, I, for example, had like just a total like sensory shutdown, and I was just like, oh my God, like this is happening. And it definitely like leaves an, I guess, impact on your mental health. So if you do need to step back to take care of your own mental health during this time, you definitely, I believe, you should, because at this time you also need to take care of your own self so you don't break down.